When you think about it, it's interesting that schools place a much higher importance on math, science, language arts, and social studies, or the core subjects. Considering the sheer breadth of information and skills our world has to offer, it seems a little odd that we've chosen these specific four. I'm obviously not trying to downplay the importance of any of the core subjects, but it's not like a subject such as the arts is really less valuable, right? Even George Washington was deeply invested in the arts, as he once stated, "To encourage literature and the arts is a duty which every good citizen owes to his country." Issues such as this, in which schools choose which subjects, which things students will learn, is called curriculum. First, let's break down what curriculum actually means. The Glossary of Education Reform defines it as the lessons and academic content taught in a school or a specific course or program. This usually includes standards, units, lessons, projects, books, and assessments, to name a few. Curriculum basically defines what students learn and how we determine their knowledge of that material. Let's take a look at books to start off, mainly because high school literature curriculum has largely been criticized for not being very diverse and for staying stagnant for a long period of time. Almost every 9th grader in history reads Romeo and Juliet, and at some point in high school you have read or will probably read, among others, The Odyssey, The Scarlet Letter, Lord of the Flies, Frankenstein, The Awakening, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, Twelfth Night, 1984, the list goes on. The most recent of those was published all the way back in 1954. Maybe in educators' minds, the world just hasn't changed since then. Though we still do read many old texts, schools have integrated plenty of more recent books, although admittedly not to the extent at which they probably should. Some of these might include The Glass Castle and The Poisonwood Bible. That's of course not to say that the classics aren't good. In fact, I enjoyed all of them, especially 1984 and Twelfth Night. Those were incredible, except I didn't really like The Scarlet Letter. I still never actually read the first 5 chapters, which is weird because I still read the rest of the book. Anyway, so we know that curriculum is slowly changing with regards to high school literature. But why is it taking this long? There's no denying that we really should integrate a much more broad range of novels. Well, it's a bit hard to say why we've never really thought of changing the high school literary canon until recently. It might be because these books have captivated and inspired people in the past, and of course, what's good for the previous generation must be good for the current generation. What has changed drastically with regards to curriculum is the amount and types of testing in education. A study from the Council of Great City Schools estimated that students take about 112 standardized tests between kindergarten and 12th grade. Today, there are more students taking the SAT, AP exams, and state-mandated exams than ever before, and a lot of them are doing this willingly. Now, it's not bad that students are pushing themselves, but a lot of them aren't necessarily doing this for the right reasons. With the sheer amount of competitiveness in education, namely college admissions, more and more students are simply looking for ways to add more and more things on their applications. Just 19 years ago, you could focus on being a good student and earning all A's in all your classes, participating in a few worthwhile clubs and after-school activities, and you wouldn't have much of a problem getting into a good college. Now that landscape is incredibly different, and the amount of testing doesn't do much to help. Why? Well, it's simply because standardized tests don't really measure your intelligence very well. They instead measure how good you are at memorizing, or just simply how well you can take that test. Also, it's perfectly possible to get an A on a test and still not have a very in-depth knowledge of the material. It's reported that Bill Clinton got a 1032 on his SAT, George W. Bush got a 1206, and Bill Gates got a 1590. Obviously, your score on a standardized exam doesn't predict how successful you'll be. There are many other factors such as passion, confidence, or your ability to keep improving that matter a great deal more. As a result of this, educators have been looking at more innovative, descriptive ways to assess a student. One particularly interesting approach that's turning quite a few heads now is standards-based grading. It sounds a bit odd at first. I mean, don't we already have standards? Yes. But the difference here is that students are graded based on those standards, not necessarily by a test that a teacher made. With this approach, parents and teachers get much more of a descriptive report of what parts of the curriculum a given student has mastered. Let's give an example. Say that we have 4 students, and they're supposed to be able to recite the alphabet and count to 100. Those two are our standards. Teachers can then go in and describe how well each student has mastered our two standards on a scale of not proficient, partially proficient, proficient, and advanced. Depending on how the report card is set up, teachers could also make notes to further describe exactly what they mean by saying a student is partially proficient at counting to 100. Taking this to a greater scale, instead of getting a 92 in chemistry on the report card, students would receive a detailed breakdown of what concepts they've mastered and to what extent. With a simple number or letter grade, there's no way of telling what exactly earned them that 92. Obviously, curriculum plays a very large role in education, for it determines what students learn, what books they read, what tests they take, and so on. It's one of the most crucial elements, and in some cases, one of the aspects that needs to be worked on. So next time you read a book in class or take a standardized test, remind yourself about how much curriculum matters.